Shalom, Yasharala. This your brother Dawada, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the great millstone that taught us this truth and ever will. And salutation and much love for you, Aki, and pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to jump into this here quick little video, which is dealing with, the Roman Empire is still around today, because Jake don't want to hear it when Jake is teaching them certain things. They'll listen to Edomites as whatever they say is gospel. But also touching in on this, when you go into your regular Christianity churches and things like that, not the Catholic church, but the regular Christian churches, they would, and they go in through the Bible and things like that, and they go into the time of Yahushua walking the earth and things like that. They knew that the Roman Empire was basically the enemy at that point in time. All right. So what you have to understand is from that point in time, what they're going to break down in this video, and we're going to grab it in the scriptures. This is the same empire all the way up until this same very day. All right. There's no difference. It's the same people. All right. If you understand about Herod, who is an Idumean, which that's a Greek way of saying an Edomite. All right. That it's like clear as day who is ruling the world today, man. All right. Who the Edomites are, where Babylon the Great is at. All right. And, who Babylon is, who the Edomites are, and, the Roman Empire just fully extended all the way until today. All right. And what America is. All right. So let's watch this here quick little video real quick.
The Roman Empire never fell, and it still rules the world today. According to this theory, the Roman Empire didn't actually fall in the year 476. Instead, it segmented and formed the Holy Roman Empire. Then in the year 1806, during the Napoleonic War, the Holy Roman Empire dissolved into what is now known as the Roman Catholic Church.
So as you're seeing, all right, this is a ploy of Esau. He's just changing his name up, all right? He was talking about when the Roman Empire, basically, because you had the time frame, they jumped through some time there. All right, because Jake was actually ruling when he was talking about the empire split. You had the Ottoman and the Byzantine Empire. That was during what they call the so-called Dark Ages. All right, and then after the Dark Ages was over with, that's when Esau came about the woodwork. All right, and started conquering the earth again. All right, but as you see, they had picked up in I believe the 1300s. All right, and he was talking about Napoleon, which we all know that these are Edomites, right? Or we all know that these are so-called white people, right? We're gonna put it in those terms for right now. All right, which they're telling you that these so-called white people that was Napoleon in them, these Edomites, they love to claim their forefathers, all right, that basically he, he took over the reins of that empire. So let's follow along.
Leader of the Roman Catholic Church is known as the Pope, which carries the title Pontifex Maximus, aka the Greatest Priest, which is the very same title Julius Caesar carried himself. The headquarters for the Roman Catholic Church is located in Vatican City, which is surrounded by Rome. Vatican City is a sovereign state, also known as a city-state. City-states have their own separate flags, laws, and a separate identity. And this is just one of the 3 city-states that make up the current Roman Empire, which is now known as the Empire of the City. The other 2 city-states that are in this empire are the City of London and the District of Columbia. You can see this represented on the flag for the District of Columbia, which has 1 red star for each city in the empire. This corporate empire controls the world economically through the City of London, which is also home to Newport, which is a collection of buildings that include the Rothschild headquarters, the London Stock Exchange, and many other banks. Nicknamed the richest square mile in the world. And guess who founded the City of London? The Romans did, in the year 47 AD. The empire's military control, aka...
All right, so as you can see, this was just an extension of the Roman Empire, bringing it all the way up until today. Now they're going to go into these 3 city-states, all right, which basically through these 3 city-states, they rule the whole entire earth, all right, because you have one branch of it being the financial branch, one branch of it being the, the military branch, and one branch of it being, going to the religious branch, all right? And through these 3 tiers, they pretty much brainwash and dominate the whole earth, all right? But the power seat is so big and so far stretched, you would never be like, oh, well, the Roman Catholics rule the whole earth, or, the Queen of England, she rules the whole earth, or America rules the whole earth. No, they use all 3 of these all together, all right, in which they was going into the Rothschilds, all right, because, see, the Rothschilds don't hold no type of positions in the world, man. They're not like presidents or nothing like that, or kings and queens. These are the people that finance all these people from behind the scenes, man. All right, these people are in control of all these different things, all right?
The U.S. military comes from the District of Columbia. But how is D.C. connected to Rome? Well, this might just be a coincidence, but in the 1600s, a settler by the name of Francis Pope owned a 400-acre farmstead in Maryland, which he named Rome. Then in 1971, Laflawn's plan was introduced, which turned this land into the permanent seat for the United States government, which is now known as the District of Columbia. This district is surrounded by the states of Virginia and Maryland. Virginia is a feminine name, which comes from the ancient Roman family name Virginus, which is derived from the Latin word Virgo, meaning maiden or virgin. So the land that surrounds D.C. could technically be called the Virgin Mary Land. Standing near the center of D.C. is an obelisk known as the Washington Monument. Well, there is also another one located in the city of London and one in the center of Vatican City, which connects the three states of the empire. And in case you didn't know, the city of London and the District of Columbia are actually corporations. So to summarize all of this, the Roman Empire never fell, but instead over the years it turned into the empire of the city. And this corporate empire now controls the world, economically through the city of London, militarily through the District of Columbia, and spiritually through Vatican City.
Right. Going into, we'll get it as well, those three unclean spirits. But nevertheless, you see how they're saying that, through these three city-states, they control the whole earth. All right. The Roman Empire never fell. It was just basically rebranded. All right. There was we'll grab it in the scriptures, basically how it had a deadly wound to his head. All right. But it was healed. All right. And they're marveling back at it. So this is basically the revival of the Roman Empire all over again. All right.
The Roman Empire never fell. And
that was the end of the video. All right. So let's grab some scriptures real quick. Try to read through this as quick as possible. But we're just going to touch on some we're going to just touch on a couple little pieces here. All right, I'm going to start here in Revelation chapter 13. It says, "And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having..." Now, when you go to church, they'll tell you that this was like a goddamn sea creature or something that just came about the water and things like that. All right, this is why they say, oh, the book of Revelation is sealed. Yeah, it's sealed. Like, you go to Revelation, 5, tell you that the books were sealed, but Yahushua was the only one that was worthy to get it. And Revelation 14 says that he gave it to... basically, the 144,000 was the only ones that could learn that new song, which is the breakdowns to these scriptures. All right. But nevertheless, like I said, there ain't no goddamn sea creature just coming about the ocean and, all these types of things. What it's talking about is, basically, how do I put it? A government or a major body. All right. That's going to move as one. All right. Because like we were just looking at. All right. It's not like one country. All right, basically saying, like they got DC, they got London, and they also got the Vatican. That's not one single country, which also makes it hard for these damn people to see certain things because it's like, well, what does America got to do with London? What does the Vatican City got to do with all these things? But you have to understand it through these three arms. All right, they control every damn thing. All right. So it says, "I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his head the name of blasphemy." In which these multiple heads, they, we can go further into it, but basically these are different, how do I say, Edomite countries, more or less to say. All right, they all, like, you can read this in like Revelation 17, and it gives you basically a breakdown of it. Is basically these are different nations. These are all Edomite nations, basically, but ultimately they coming together as one power, just like we see today in modern day time. You have NATO and the EU. All right, those are a bunch of different countries. But guess what? They're moving together as one big block. All right. They're moving together as one unit. All right. So it says, "The beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet was the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion." All right. Which is going into, going back to Alexander the Great or Alexander the Greek. All right. When he talk about that in the first book of Maccabees, talking about how, after, he came out, he took over the whole known earth, in a quick succession, really quick. But then he wound up dying at a young age. And then basically he split his kingdom up between his 4 generals. And then the scriptures say that, after he died, he set up his men, and then they set up their sons after them, so they just pretty much just divided it up. All right. So you had one big kingdom under Alexander the Greek. All right. Which was divided up into more Edomites. All right. And, give it to you in layman's terms, right? Let's say I have this big corporation, this big company. We'll call it, Blue Truck Blue, right? Now, it's $1 billion corporation. Now, I got 5 kids, and instead of leaving my inheritance to just one of my kids, I'll give them all, or let's say 4 kids. I got, 25% of the company going to each one of them, all right? Or they got, 4 different companies. I give them all a company. Now, they all have a piece of my inheritance. I used to have all of this under my belt, but I split it up under the 4. Right now, these 4 basically still, are my descendants that are running, it's still in the family name, it's still the family business. All right. This is pretty much what happened all the way down to the same day today, man. All right. Now, there was a, how you call it? This Edomite chick did this research that found that all the presidents, I believe, except for one, were all related to one another. All right, which shows you this is all the same lineage of people, man. All right, but nevertheless, it says, "And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard." See, it started with Alexander, and his feet was the feet of a bear, which is going to end with the them Russians over there, and his mouth as a lion, and the dragon him gave him his power and his seat and a great authority. And I saw one of his heads, if it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. So that was going into the Roman Empire as we saw it back in the olden days, right? And that was like what they would say the greatest empire at that point in time, the most vastest empire and everything like that. But all of a sudden you had that how do I say this split? You know, how he was going into the Roman Empire and then the Holy Roman Empire, the Ottoman and the Byzantine Empire. All right, where Jake basically took over for a while, which was known as the Dark Ages. All right, for about 1,000 years. But then Esau came back. So, you know, that was the fall of Esau at that point in time, ruling the Roman Empire. But then he wound up coming back into power and started dominating the earth again and continued on where he left off at. All right. So it says, I saw one of the heads if it were wounded to death. You know, the Roman Empire, as we know it, we think that, oh, you know, what you would think of as the Roman Empire. Like, because today you can look at a map and you can find Rome. Rome ain't that big, right? But back in the olden days, Rome was big as shit. You know what I'm saying? It had its expanse throughout the whole globe. All right, just like back in 1776, you know, the United States of America was just from coast to coast, border to border. But now, all right, with them having NATO, their NATO branch and their military and all these military bases in all these other countries, basically the borders of America extend all the way around the globe. All right. It says, and they worship the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him. All right, and you see that today, man. All right, it's not just America that's waging war against these other nations. Like, if any of these other nations want to wage war against America, it's not just America that's going to go to war with them. It's going to be America and their allies, which these are all the Edomites, you know, NATO and the EU. All right, so these are basically the same thing as like the Roman Empire, because you had multiple, you know, they had different, how they call it, governors and, you know, people that was ruling, you know, in charge of certain things, just like here in America, man. All right, you got one president that's ruling over all of the United States, but in every state they have what they call a governor. All right, they have smaller leaders that rule over these states, but they all, you know, have their power under the you know, you have federal law, all right, and everything like that. All right, it says verse 5, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemy, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth and blasphemed against the Most High, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and them that dwell in them, or dwell in heaven. All right, because, you know, ultimately, you know, they covered the face of the judges thereof. You know, not only did they change up the name, calling them God and Jesus, all right, they painted the images white, said that they're the Israelites, you know, all kind of different blasphemies and everything like that, man. All right. Oh, let me just finish it off. 7. And it was given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. So even back when we was in slavery, you know, the northern and southern kingdom, man. All right, who was that was ruling over top of us, man? All right, it was a so-called white man who was known in the Bible as the Edomites. All right, and also look at the power struggle today. Give me 1 second. All right, Salak. And going back into this, it says, and power was given him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. So when you look at it today, you know, like today, all right, you see these other nations, what you think of as sovereign nations and everything like that. But let one of these nations decide they want to look at Iran. Let's say they really want to create a nuclear weapon over there, which we know that they ain't gonna create no goddamn nuclear weapon. That shit would be retarded. They would just buy one from Russia. All right, that's just stupid. But anyway, you see, they're trying to create these nuclear reactors for energy, and Esau's putting sanctions on them. All right, but let's just say any of these other nations, well, hell, any of these other sovereign nations want to buy oil from Venezuela. Americans are going to throw sanctions on their ass, man. All right, so looking at these things like that, who is ruling over the whole earth, man? All right, it would be America. Well, America's the power seat, the head. Like if you reread Revelation 17, that's the whore that's riding upon the beast. All right, so it says, oh, that's all we want to grab in here. Let's go to oh, here we go, right here. Let me read Revelation 16, 13, and 14. It says, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, which, like, old boy was breaking down these 3 city-states, right? Because with these 3, they rule the whole damn earth financially, all right? Because you try to take your damn money off of what they call the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, or what they call central banks. Try to take your money up out of their grips and see what happened to your ass, man. Your ass, you gonna get Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi, man. All right. And let me see. It says, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. All right. So, again, like they were showing forth, you have the Roman, the Holy Roman Empire, or the Catholic Church, more or less to say. In reality, the majority of these modern day religions that we have today come from out of the damn Roman, out the Catholic Church, man. All right. But hey, this is what they had to hijack what? The financial arm, because they didn't want nobody to start creating money or getting money to be able to buy their way up out of certain things and stuff like that, because they can keep printing money, right? And you got to use their money, all right? Second of all, they're in control of the military. It was also given to them as a blessing. Esau was given that blessing to live by the sword and take peace from the earth with that sword, all right? And then also they have, like I said, the financial, you need the money, the military, and then also the religious thing, all right? Verse 14, for these are the spirits of devil working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole world to gather them to battle to the great day of the almighty power. So this is what's going on with this whole situation. All right. They're the ones that's manipulating everything to get to where we are right now with World War III. Let me look for, actually, we'll close out here. Well, let me read. Hold on one second. Well, I'll read it here first. I'll read it here and just get the point. We'll close out here. Revelation 17:1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show thee the judgment of the great whore which sitteth upon many waters. All right. So real quick, let me just give you the breakdown about sitting on the many waters, because they'll tell you about how Rome was established on the 7 hills and things like that. But which it says, verse 18, the woman which thou sawest is that great city, all right, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. All right. So look, this woman which you saw, all right, is basically America, which is reigning over all the other kings of the earth. So when you look at NATO and the EU, right, you have let's say they have a pact, basically. Like, if anybody attack any member of NATO, they all come out to their protection, right? But they don't have a situation where any of those nations that's a part of NATO can just go, because they want to go and invade another nation, all right? And then all the rest of NATO got to follow their ass, man. If France decide they want to go and invade another country, they out there on their own with that shit, right? But the only people that can do that shit would be America. America's the only people that can just drag all of NATO into some things, because of why? Well, let me go down and read this first and go back up. And Revelation 17:18, and the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Going back up to the top, and there came out, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore which sitteth upon many waters. So this woman is sitting upon these. This is the king, or the throne that's reigning over all these other thrones, right? With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornications, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Because, see, from America, basically, they're the ones, that are pushing forth all the rules and the regulations and things is going out, man. All right. You don't see the Vatican putting sanctions on other nations. You don't see like Britain or Europe putting sanctions on other nations. It's only America that's doing these things like that, man. All right. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw the woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, which we just broke that down about what that was. It's basically these other nations, right? But the woman, all right, which is the whore, okay, I give you the analogy. You got a horse and a rider, right? The horse ain't going to go nowhere until it's being controlled by the rider. Now, the horse, being the beast, all right, is basically NATO and the EU. Being controlled, these other nations being controlled by the rider, which would be America. America's the one controlling all of them to do what they got to do, bringing them into World War III. Well, I'll read 4 and 5. And a woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. All right. So ultimately, this is going into basically the revival of the Roman Empire. All right. Oh, verse 15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying unto the elect. Until next time, I say, call Allah, Yahweh, Bashim Yahushua, Bashim Rakakwadash, Brakathum.